audio article by the Common Constitutionalist entitled "More Cities Roll Out the Illegal Alien Welcome Mat." Conservatives have several issues to be concerned with these days. One that keeps resurfacing is illegal immigration. Some are already blaming Trump for softening his position on illegals. This may or may not be, but the guy has been in office for less than 6 months, so I'm cutting him some slack. To me, he appears to be doing what he can on his own, with seemingly zero help from the Chamber of Commerce-controlled legislature. He's going ahead with his border wall plans and mock-ups, and his anti-illegal rhetoric has apparently been effective at tamping down illegal entries. Yet while this is happening, liberal cities are still rolling out the welcome mat for criminal aliens. Last week, the Chicago Tribune wrote an editorial about, quote, a nationwide immigration initiative called Welcoming Cities. They begin by tugging on the reader's heartstrings, saying, quote, getting a library card or joining a PTA shouldn't be intimidating experiences. They are, however, for residents living in the country illegally and who often live in the shadows of society, unquote. I was frankly surprised they even mentioned the word illegal, and I agree. It should not be an intimidating experience. It should not be an experience at all. It's stunning to read such a sentence, but to leftists the words "in the country illegally" is like water off a duck's back. The irony is completely lost on these people. And this is not a news report, it's an editorial which advocates a certain position. Being that this is the Chicago Tribune, they have concentrated on cities in their region. They write that many cities and school districts have begun instituting what they are calling welcoming ordinances. Merrillville attorney and immigration rights advocate Alfredo Estrada has been at the forefront of the local movement. He's addressed city leaders and encouraged them to pass ordinances at local council meetings. The Trib writes that Gary, Indiana was the first to pass such an ordinance, and Estrada claims that city crime rates have declined since they have passed them. My, how things have changed in Gary, Indiana since the days of The Music Man, starring Robert Preston, Shirley Jones, and even Little Ron Howard, with his slurred rendition of the Wells Fargo Wagon. But seriously, I'll bet my bottom dollar this is an outright lie, but for the sake of argument, let's say he is correct. I assume he's referring to violent crime like rapes, murders, assaults, etc. These are far from the only crimes committed by illegals. First, let's say there's an entire neighborhood in Gary filled with only illegals that were happily welcomed. Every one is a criminal. They crossed the border illegally, which is a federal misdemeanor. It should be a felony in my opinion, but c'est la vie. Second, and more importantly, are the crimes that seem to go virtually unnoticed or at least unreported. These are the crimes of fraud, which are not merely misdemeanors but federal felonies and can ruin an unsuspecting citizen's life for years. Impersonating a U.S. citizen for purposes of employment, 18 U.S.C. 911. This felony is punishable by up to 3 years in jail and a fine. 18 U.S.C. 1001 refers to making fraudulent statements to the government, again most likely for purposes of employment. This is also a felony punishable by up to 5 years in the slammer and a fine. And remember, every job they illegally obtain is one less for a citizen. But the worst of these felonies, which are always glossed over by the left, is 42 U.S.C. 408. This regards Social Security, welfare, and benefits fraud. An illegal obtains a Social Security number and uses it as his or her own. Many of these cards are stolen, which puts the rightful owner in dire jeopardy. Identity theft can be devastating to a citizen, and that's exactly what this is. But this doesn't seem to matter. So what if lives are ruined in the process of advancing the agenda? The federal government should hold these city legislators liable as accessories for fraud perpetrated by their illegal guests. And also dirtbag lawyers like Alfredo Estrada should be charged with aiding and abetting. Maybe that will get their attention. Thank you for listening.